last 100. Minimums. Fifty, 40, 30, 20, 10.
To our viewers, today we're going to be speaking to Faith. Faith is originally from Nigeria but lives in Holland, and Faith comes from an incredibly unique family, as most of the members in her family are all aviators. Faith's father and siblings are all pilots. For an entire family to all be pilots and involved in aviation in Africa is extremely rare. So welcome, Faith, to tonight's interview.
Thank you, Ivana. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, it's our pleasure to have you. So Faith, having a father and siblings as mentors must have been a huge influence in your decision of becoming a pilot, or was that not the case?
That is absolutely the case. I mean, growing up, I have always wanted to be a doctor. I guess there were not so many female pilots sort of that I saw to sort of influence me on that. I mean, the only pilot I knew was my dad, and he was mostly away from home. So it never just occurred to me that it's a profession for women. But of course, I knew about female doctors, and that was just what I wanted to be. And my dad really encouraged that. I remember he was always calling me Dr. B. So I sort of got used to the idea of being a doctor. I did my final school exams in preparation for that, my JAM to enter the university, also to study medicine. And about that time, he started talking about another female pilot he was working with. And I thought, yeah, I sort of lost that idea in the back of my mind, but I thought it was not something for women to do, and maybe it's a bit too expensive. And I mentioned that to my mom, and my mom sort of mentioned it to him. And from that moment, he just started encouraging me, giving me books to study about flying. And that was how I shifted from studying medicine to becoming a pilot. My dad was my main motivator.
So did you actually finish your medicine then at the time?
No, I mean, this was just the exam to go into the university to study medicine. So I was about 15 at the time when I did these exams, and I think just rounding up the final year of high school. Okay. So that was when I did this exam, and that was when I had this conversation with my dad. I remember at the same time, this female pilot was actually getting married. And my dad was like, oh, maybe I can take you to the wedding and you can meet her. And, but I think I never went. I can't remember why it got canceled, that I was not able to go. But of course, from that moment, my mind shifted from medicine completely to flying.
Wow, that's so awesome that you actually then, change from medicine, because even the medicine profession is quite difficult and a lot of hard work is involved. Do all your family fly in Nigeria?
Yes, my dad was flying in Nigeria until his retirement. My sister, my brothers are still there. So yes, they all fly in Nigeria now.
Okay, and how many of you in your family are pilots?
My father raised 5 of us, to be pilots.
Yay!
Yes.
That's
And
fantastic.
thank you. And we gained an extra brother. My sister is also married to a pilot. So we gained an extra pilot in the family. So in total, including my dad, there are 7 of us.
So that's truly a whole entire family of pilots. That's just remarkable.
Yeah. Well, we have one person that is not a pilot, but she's like the brain of the family. We all go to her for all our problems, and she's the heart and soul of the family. So even though she's not a pilot, we are glad she's not, because I think without her, we cannot do a lot of things.
Shame. So basically, for any parents out there who are concerned and worried about their child becoming a pilot, here is an entire family of pilots. So that should deter any reservations or negative reservations you have about your child becoming a pilot, because here is a complete entire family in Africa, very rare, who are all inspiring and remarkable family. So you have a complete motivation here.
Absolutely,
You're
absolutely.
truly blessed to have a parent who encouraged you into aviation, especially going down that path. But as your father is, involved in the industry, he knows what is involved and understands it. So that's fantastic. He managed to get all his children to sort of become pilots. It's extremely rare, because most of the time some kids take it for granted that their parents are in aviation, and I've seen many kids go with their parents, go flying and go and do things, and when you ask them, what are you going to be, they're like, oh, a doctor or a chef, or no, they don't have any interest in aviation.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I would say something, Ivana, is quite amazing that, we all actually chose to become pilot, because I think I cannot remember actually being on a plane. I mean, the last picture I have of me traveling was probably, I think I was 4. So I really don't remember being on a plane. And I think up until I went to flying school, I never went on a plane. And
oh my goodness.
the same for my brothers and sisters. So it was not like we saw the inside of a plane, or we saw my father flying a plane, or we saw planes flying over the house, something that encouraged us. No, it was just the sort of the final stages of our lives. And, it's something we all nursed, but we all knew that it was quite expensive. And of course, we lived in a sort of, I wouldn't say poor neighborhood, but sort of middle class neighborhood. So really, we didn't think we could afford that. But my father, I think in his mind, was ready to, give his children the best of whatever they need. So he made a lot of sacrifices for him to be able to eventually afford flying school for 5 children.
5 children is not a joke. Yeah. And like the last interview I did with Tahira, we did talk a lot about the financial costs involved in aviation, and like you say, for 5 of them, it's not easy. It's serious sacrifices were definitely made, but it was worth it in the end. Yay. So salute to your family, especially your dad. Salute him, please.
Yes,
So
I owe him everything.
absolutely you do. So what challenges did you face, if any? So when you left home, and you said you'd never been on an airplane, so that would be your first time you were traveling to go to flying school, I presume.
Yeah.
What challenges did you face? Of course, facing the big world, traveling on your own, going to flying school.
Yeah.
Those are challenges in themselves.
Yeah, it was my first time sort of venturing out of the house on my own. I mean, I think I only remember being in boarding school for like a week or 2 weeks, and that was it. And so this was the first time I was coming out of my house, my country, all by myself, without the guidance of my parents. And so it was quite a big challenge. I was such a novice, if I would put it that way, and trying to find my footing and just work with what my parents have raised me with. They raised us to put the best in everything we do. There was no room for failure, and so now I'm in flying school on my own, and I had to make good with it. And of course, the first few months in flying school, when for me to go solo, it took a while. And at some point, the chief instructor called my dad and said to him, I cannot continue, I'm struggling with it. But of course, that is a story on its own, But, I was encouraged by other Black students in the school. And they sort of told me the challenges they were going through and that I had to sort of overcome it. So I called my dad and I told him, I'm good to do this. Don't believe whatever you hear. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to work harder. And my dad believed in me, which was a very good thing. He could have as well at that point say, okay, come back home. Let's not waste any more money, that kind of thing. But no, he encouraged me. He's like, okay, I believe in you. Stay there, do your best, and I know you would succeed, And that was, from there on, the sky was the limit. I never let anything get me back, So, yeah, it was nice.
Which school did you go to? Which, was it in Africa, or did you fly out overseas somewhere else?
I think we went to the same school. I've heard you say it as well.
43, okay. Okay, 43 school. Yeah, that's brilliant. So we're having a whole alumni going on here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pleased that your dad gave you that opportunity and didn't just listen to everything and, encouraged you. And sometimes it's easy for parents to say, like you said earlier, to just pull the person out and say, no, it's too much money, I'm going to waste years, it's really going to happen. But he believed in you, and he wanted to see you achieve that, and as well as you also put in that hard work. And I've mentioned previously, the most important thing is determination and hard work, which is what we've said time and time again in the previous interviews, that don't think other people out there who are looking at Captain Faith or Captain Tahira or Captain Priya, myself, say, oh, look at these pilots, they're awesome. We've all got a story. We've all had difficulties. It is a male-dominated profession as well, so it's not been easy. Each of us have had different, stories and ways about coming to where we are. So yeah, I would say just don't let those sort of obstacles defeat you, and keep those encounters going. We always face many defeats, but you must not be defeated. It is necessary to encounter the defeats, so we know who we are and what we can rise up to be. These are wise words from Maya Angelou. So she's one of those who used to say to us, always challenge yourself. Don't let those defeats take you down. You have to experience them to make you a stronger person. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I'm so glad that you carried on and you went through it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad I went through it as well. I was quite young, so coming out of home and getting into that kind of environment, I was learning a lot on my own, and I could have easily been derailed. You find people go to flying school, young, old, and they get derailed. They lose their focus. They start doing other things. They're not focusing on their studies anymore. They're going out partying with friends. I was able to keep the foundation that my parents have sort of placed me on, and sort of mingled myself with good company. And yeah, even though once in a while I tested other waters that maybe my parents would not dare see me test, but I still kept the focus. I still focused on the main issue, which was going out of flying school successful. And even when I started working, there were other challenges like that. The fact that I was young was an issue. But again, I had to focus on what my parents have put in me. Failure was not an option. You had to work hard to succeed. And that was what I did. Yeah.
I have to say one thing about 43 School. For those of you who are looking to become a pilot, especially in Africa, it is one of the very good schools in Africa. And what I found, I was pretty much very similar to you. When I left home, I had never been away from home on my own. It was the first time, traveling. I've traveled on my own a few times, but not to a flying school and starting a whole career and going and venturing out the world on my own. But having said that, 43 Air School does have that environment where you do sort of feel sheltered and you do feel safe. Your peers around you. I was very lucky that I didn't feel, I was most concerned before I left that the boys would, tease me and take the mick out of me and not help me in my studies. And that was what frightened me the most. But actually, they were all like my brothers. They really encouraged me. And that really surprised me. At the time, we were not many females. I think it was just 3 of us. And unfortunately, I did lose a friend in a plane crash at the time. It was, I think, the first plane crash that they ever had where they lost a student. But at that point in time, we were just 3 females. And we were really amazed at the comrade of the boys, that they really stood by us, they helped us, they encouraged us. When we went out, if we did go out to parties, they protected us like their sisters. If some random guy came to talk to you, they'd immediately be standing next to you like a big brother. So I really enjoyed my time at 43, and I really did feel very sheltered and safe. The environment was excellent for flying in terms of learning to fly, and the instructors were always out with you and helping you as well. So you didn't have those sort of inferior complex where some schools that you go to, it's so huge, it's so rambling, you don't know anybody, you don't hardly see the instructors, you hardly see your friends. It's very difficult to make friends, especially in other bigger flying schools. So this one is a really nice school in that aspect. That was my experience, and I would highly recommend 43 Air School for those that are in Africa wanting to learn to fly.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, when I was in 43, there was another black girl that came later. I mean, of course, she had to leave, same situation with her. I think they told her she wasn't good, but in her case, she was being sponsored by her government, and so they didn't have the second chance to say, oh, can you do it, can you not do it? And of course her training was terminated. But there was a big group of the black community, or the colored community, I would say, in 43, and they were very supportive. Whenever I was going through tough times or I couldn't understand a lesson, I didn't even have to go back to my instructor. I mean, I just went to these guys and they were very glad to put me through. I mean, they would explain everything down to the nitty bitty. And same thing, it was not just all work, it was also play. I mean, whenever they were going out, you could always hang out with them and there was no pressure, Sometimes they wanted to go far away, like drive to, another town, like drive to Joburg. I mean, Port Harcourt to Joburg is quite a distance, and there was no pressure. Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm too scared, I cannot go that far. I'm like, okay, maybe next time, and they'll always bring something back for you, cheer you up. It was such a nice learning environment. Even when I had to do my exams, the 8 exams, that was a big hurdle, but they were so supportive, all of them that did it. I mean, some of them had to do it twice, 3 times, and they were like, yeah, we are a bit playful, but we know you can study hard. They made you feel like whatever they did or whatever went wrong with them should not scare you. You should sit down and put your effort in work. Yeah, and they were really, really supportive. They were really supportive. I really enjoyed that environment, especially with with the group that I was with. It was really amazing.
And that's the way it should be. That is important in a learning environment. So I would highly recommend for anyone to go there. Absolutely. What aspects have you enjoyed in your career so far, and what goals do you have still that you want to achieve?
In my career, I have enjoyed so many aspects. I mean, I can't even begin to point a finger at which one was the most exciting. I mean, starting out flying in Nigeria, I was quite young, and you sort of expect people to, pamper you or treat you like an egg, or they will not give you a chance to do stuff. But it was completely opposite. I mean, I was doing things that, sometimes people could not believe that, oh, you know, that captain actually gave you control. That captain actually let you do this, do that. It was quite amazing. It was a lovely learning experience, you know. And we had this captain that was very strict. Everybody knew him to be very strict, but for some reason he liked me. But I mean, people felt he had a soft spot for me, but that was not the case. I think he was just impressed with the fact that I was doing good with my procedures, with my work, with learning. You know, like he teaches me something today, and the next day I'm already implementing what he has taught me, you know. And sometimes we were flying in bad weather, and you know, I'm flying and I'm thinking, okay, no, I think it's time to hand over controls. And I'm like, your controls. And it's like, why? Is there anything that you wouldn't do? What if I faint now? What if, you know, and he was quite an older guy, so he always brought that up, like, what if I faint? What if something happened to me? You are going to land this plane, aren't you? He's like, don't worry, you know, I'm here all this. I mean, right now I've not fainted, so I'm here with you. So if anything, of course I will take over. But right now I have not taken over. So you give it a try, give it a shot. And that was it. I was learning to do stuff right from the beginning. There was no pampering, there was no special treatment. And that made me work harder, you know. And it was such a challenge as well, because, I mean, this older guy, for example, was quite respected in the company. And so when the words got out that, Faith is a good pilot, it put a lot of, I don't know if you know that feeling, it put a lot of pressure on you, because now you're flying with the new captain and they're waiting to see this good pilot.
They're waiting to see what's so special. What, you know, they keep saying she's a good pilot. What's so special about her? Absolutely, yeah.
And it gives you more to work on, you know. And
I have found working with older pilots, you tend to have they like you said, they don't pamper you, but they give you so much more. You learn so much more from them because they have so much experience. And they have nothing to show off about. They've been there, done that. They've got the hours. So they're just willing to completely teach and share their knowledge. Whereas with younger captains, it's completely different. Especially with the males, the younger males that I've flown with, they always have something to prove. You know, it's like, I've got to prove a point. I've got to prove myself. And like I talked with Tahira previously, sometimes they feel, no, you're not good enough to hold the controls. You're not good enough to do the certain jobs, certain things. But as time goes by, you've got to break those barriers. And however way you break them, just to show them that I am capable, I am able to do this. Of course, you can be met with a lot of animosity, a lot of stigma there, but you have to just prove your point, you know. But I totally agree that the older captains, you do gain a lot of experience, and they're like granddads. I always call them granddads of the family of the pilot world, because they give you so much knowledge and they give you so much confidence. They really do help you raise your confidence. When I was learning to fly in Malaysia, I had an old captain who was in the Air Force. He was a civil aviation examiner. He retired. He would just leave me in the front and say, okay, you fly the jet, I'm going to the back. You go to the back and sleep and leave me. And I'm like, are you sure you want to do this? He's like, yeah, if something happens, just call me, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So yeah, he gave me the confidence to say, I don't need him, I can do these things, and I am capable of doing these things. But because I was flying with other captains that were sort of putting you down, you get worried. So you think, no, I'm not capable. But he used to just completely leave and say, get on with it, do it, you can do it. And it's these sort of small things that actually help, you know, people to gain their confidence and carry on going.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, for me, it was not just the older captains, but yeah, like I said, a lot of the older captains actually helped me a great deal. They taught me a lot of things, a lot of, what do you call them? The small tricks that you need to know that, you know, they come in very handy, you know. But even the younger captains, and maybe for me, it may be like a big difference because I was quite young then. I mean, I was only 18 when I started flying commercially. So the young captains are probably 30 something. So there was still a big difference in the age. and they still let me do things. Of course, some of them were a bit harder and stricter, and the older you become, then you were sort of in close age range with some of them, and then you have this kind of difficulty where someone is trying to prove to you that they know stuff and show off. But most of the time, I think most captains I flew with, it was always a lesson, you know. And I was very lucky to be in a company that was like a family, you know. We're all a family in there. I worked with amazing people. Everybody sort of, almost everybody had each other's back, you know, protected each other. We attended each other's wedding, baby ceremony, you know, all those kind of things. It was really a family. And so when we were actually in the cockpit together flying, it was the same thing. It was, you know, it was just teaching my younger sister or teaching my daughter or granddaughters, you know, be better. And that was how it was. And I really had a great time, you know, great experience working with amazing people. And sorry, go ahead.
No, so that makes such a huge difference in the working environment, because that is quite unique too. In not always you get that. You always have sometimes backstabbing and bickering and arguing and fighting going on. So you were very lucky at a young age to be able to have that, because I've heard of friends who've like been through hell and back in terms of airline environment. I've never flown airline. I've always been corporate. So I've not had that experience of the airline bickering and all the dramas that go on there. But I have had friends who've said to me, gosh, you know, the airline sometimes can be quite difficult, but if you just keep your head down, get on with things, do it, you'll be fine. But I'm so happy to hear that, you know, there are still companies out there and airlines out there that have this family environment, that want to help their other peers and colleagues. That's fantastic to hear.
Yeah, I think maybe it's more because my company, they didn't start off as an airline. They were actually like a charter company. You know, we're
Okay,
flying.
that makes sense. Okay,
yeah,
yes,
we were
okay.
flying Dutch back then for the oil company, and so it was really a small family.
Small
Of
family,
course,
yeah.
there's some backstabbing going on there and there, but I mean, I was too young to be involved anyway, so it never got to me. So it was really a great learning environment. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
I always say in aviation, you will encounter people with all personality types, you know, men and women alike. Some who will discourage you or, you know, backstab you, some who will only wish for the best outcome for you. And I can say this is the same in life in general, really. But it happens, if it happens to you, and you can't decide, you know, like some women, especially some female pilots, can be quite timid and not sure and, you know, worried. They shouldn't let this reduce them to feel defeated. I always say just stick with it, and stick with the people who bring out the magic in you and who want the best for you. That's the most important. When you experience these sort of circumstances, just hang out with those that will bring out the craziness, the madness, the fun, and the magic in you, and encouraging you all the time. That's what's really important here, because sometimes you can hang out with the wrong people, the wrong crowd, and don't have your best interests at heart. They're not there to see you succeed, but they pretend to see you succeed. So when you do have genuine people around you, you'll always be on the top.
Absolutely. Positive energy, basically. Anyone around you draining that energy away or just surrounding you with a lot of negative energy, you need to pull yourself away from that and just surround yourself with positive energy.
Yes, especially I hear, you know, like I was saying, going back to airlines, I'm not generalizing all airlines are that like that, but it's just that from what I've heard from my friends talking about the airlines itself, I know that they do have so many issues, but you just keep yourself with certain people, certain like-minded friends, positive people, you'll be good. So
I moved up to airlines later on, actually. I mean, I worked with this company for my entire time I was in Nigeria, and eventually
so
I had
this
to.
Was an oil company?
Yes, it was. No, it was a charter company. They were flying for the oil companies,
Okay.
when they started off. It's air contractors in Nigeria. Um,
Yes.
yeah, you must have heard of them.
I've heard
So
of them, yes.
they became bigger and they started flying Boeing 737s
Yes.
and started flying passenger commercial flights as well. So they
Okay.
sort of developed into an airline later on, but it was still, the foundation was more charter, small family, you know. And of course, as we grew bigger, we had to employ more people from outside. And of course, then you start seeing a bit of the things that you see in the airlines. But I
Yeah.
think the foundation of us being a family was still there. And we were
Mm.
able to actually influence all this coming from outside to sort of adopt the family
That family
setting that we put
environment,
in
that's
place.
important. Yes, yeah. And that's what then makes it special. And everyone gets into aviation because they're passionate about it. And if you're passionate about something, you'll always do your best at it. So it's nice that, they all kept that passion alive, kept the family environment alive. That's very, very important.
Yes,
Yes.
it's kept them going for so many years.
7 years.
I think it's probably the longest standing airline in Nigeria at the moment.
Wow, well
So
done to them. And because of that, because of the culture, they call it the culture, the safety culture, the happiness culture, all the cultures.
true, true. The goals. I mean, basically, I would love to give back what has happened to me. You know, the experiences I have had,
Yes,
enjoying flying, learning something every day. That is my goal now. You know, I mean, I have reached a certain peak in the career where I think, okay, how much more? You know, I continue learning from people. I continue learning every day to be better every day. That is something I daily do. But at the
yeah.
same time, I would love to give back and teach other people, you know. And so I look forward to becoming an instructor, you know, online in a simulator. And that I am working towards to achieve.
Yes. Now that's great. Being a role model to others and giving back. And this is what I'm doing with the 99s, which leads to my next question in terms of most of us who are members of the 99s are all volunteers of the 99s. We come into the 99s as members. What do you think we can do to make a difference as the 99s, especially in the aviation industry for Africa? As we don't have that many female pilots, I get numerous people emailing me all the time asking if they want to join, but they don't have the finances. And I'm doing my best to try and raise finances, like scholarship funds, and to partner with companies. But this year has kind of put me out a bit because of this COVID, and it's sort of held me back with so many meetings with certain companies and stuff like this. So I've not been able to continue just for the interim. But what do you think we could do in order to change that?
Well, I mean, the 99 is quite an elite member, elite group of inspiring women. I mean, over the years, you know, the story has been tremendous, inspiring and motivating women, men alike, you know, to be better pilots, to be pilots. And I think as a member of the 99 or 99 group in general, we need to bring more awareness, you know. I mean, as I mentioned, I knew about female doctors, and so it was easy for me to say I wanted to be a doctor. The only role model I had as a pilot was my dad, and for me, it was a sort of a man's job. But if we're able to bring awareness out there, which is what you're already doing,
Yes.
to the world in general, to see that there are more female doing this male job, then we can encourage more and more women to come into the industry.
Yeah.
We should also sort of celebrate each other. I mean, people sort of tend to be a bit negative and negative talking when we celebrate, oh, first woman this, first female in that. I mean, people sort of get tired of, oh yeah, we celebrated the first female captain in Africa. Why do we have to celebrate the first female captain in Nigeria? And then, no, first female from Lagos State. I mean, Lagos State is another state inside of Nigeria.
Nigeria,
And
yeah.
people are wondering, do we have to celebrate for every 36 states now or something like that? But I think the whole idea is not just celebrating these women, but also raising awareness. Because as you know probably a lot of female pilots, but I can bet there are times you have flown and someone will still say, oh, I've never been flown by a female captain. It happens to me a lot of times. And so people are not aware. I mean, I spoke to a young girl recently who wants to get into flying, and her parents would not allow her because they think it's a man's job. So even parents are not aware of the fact that women can do this.
I experienced the same. When I was flying in Malaysia, I would be waiting at the airport for the passengers to arrive, and many times you would see people passing by and smiling at me and looking at me, and they can see I've got my uniform on, they can see my wings, but they'll come to me and say, excuse me, are you security guard? Just to sort of, I think, start a little bit of a conversation. And I used to just smile at them and say, no, I'm a pilot. And then, they'd get talking with me and say, wow, a pilot in Malaysia, a female pilot. And it was very rare at the time. And of course, at that time when I was flying there, Malaysian Airlines didn't allow female pilots. I don't know if they have actually started allowing female pilots now, but it was the same with Singapore. I know Singapore has started taking on females. And this was like 2009. So, they would all be really surprised. The low-cost airlines were taking females, but I know Malaysian Airlines refused to take females point blank. So there were very few female pilots there at that time. And I would always have people smiling at me or giving me this quizzical look or, coming and asking me crazy things. But you're right, there were not enough people encouraging the children to join into aviation, and there's still that thought process that this is a male-dominated environment, so we don't want our girls going into it, and the only way we can change that is by attending a lot of conferences and raising awareness, and trying to just break that whole stigma about it to parents out there. And your family is a perfect example as well, that, we are all basically there. And like you said as well, to encourage and stand up for each other, for all the other women as well. Because I've also seen sometimes you do get some who are involved in the 99s or just in general in aviation, they don't really want to do anything more, which is fine. Or you get some who just don't even want to help their other peers who are struggling. So you do have these situations where some also trying to pull the other ones down. And really, we are so few in the industry. We should be supporting one another. We should be pushing, lifting one another up and pushing one another up. So yeah, I totally agree that we should have more role models and basically support each other in the aviation industry, especially as females. We should stand together.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, in the airline, there's a lot of things that go on. I have been lucky to have a bit of a different experience. I've worked with an airline in Romania, in Europe, and it was also a lovely community. I mean, when I was flying with another female, it was like, yay, females on board.
Exactly, another friend, another sister.
Exactly. And they're quite amazing, brilliant women. And yeah, once in a while you would still get some backlash from, another pilot commenting, oh, she's not such a good pilot, huh? And every time I come up to their defense, like, oh, she's amazing, she's excellent, she follows procedures, she does this. And even if the person was sort of weaker, I mean, I'm a very experienced pilot, and this is probably someone just coming fresh out of school. I'll be like, I mean, you were there once, weren't you? Weren't you a student?
Exactly, you started somewhere.
Exactly. Why are you putting
Yeah.
someone down just because they have 250 hours and trying to fly a 737 and they are making some mistakes? Everyone is learning from somewhere. And I
Somewhere.
think that is what we women should do. We should sort of encourage one another, stand up for each other.
Yes.
We should not allow any negative talking about another female pilot. And
Of
if we
course,
see a
yeah.
female pilot maybe struggling with something, we should be the first to stand out there and say, oh, we want to help. You know, the same experience, like you said, we have in 43. I was the only
Exactly.
girl there. And the guys were there. They were like, no, we would not see another black girl go down, you know, and they were right
We
there
want to
helping
help
to pull
you.
me up. And
Yes.
that is what we want to do for another, you know. We were not going to let another woman go away in
Go
aviation.
away. Yeah.
You know,
You have to stand together. And this brings me to what I remember watching Oprah Winfrey and Iyanla. And Iyanla says there are 5 reasons why other women don't support each other. And they're very interesting. The first one she says is because we don't honor relationships. Self-hatred. I see in you what I refuse to see in me. The second is we seek external validation. If you don't treat me like I think you must treat me or you should treat me, I'm going to make it all about you and come for you and attack you. So we seek external validation. The third one is we don't honor ourselves. So this is very important and key, and even Oprah emphasized a lot about it as well in their discussions, and I think it's also very true. Truly successful people will only uplift other people. And it's basically helping others to come so that it comes back to you in twofold. And you want the best interest and you have their interests at heart. So you would do it solely and truly from the heart. So it's basically helping and empowering others. The other one was we mimic what we see. So if you come from a line where there's mothers, sisters, aunties, other women who don't value themselves, you're going to be exactly like that. And that then leads to, because of you're holding on to unrealistic expectations. What are you going to do for me? What are you going to get from me? How do we go about this? So unrealistic demands and expectations. So these are the 5 reasons that she gave that women sort of betray one another, don't help or assist one another. And I thought they were very valuable to bring up today, since we're talking about this, so that as the 99s, we can take these lessons and learn from them. And so far, though, I have to say that though I've attended quite a lot of meetings in other countries, you know, in the 99s, Jordan and Canada and Egypt, and they've all come to Malawi as well, we have such a wonderful group of sisters. I know you've only just joined, and I hope you can attend some of the international meetings that go on, because you will meet so many who are encouraging others and supporting other 99s in different ways, whether it's student pilots or someone older who had a dream and is now wanting to achieve that dream, who's been, you know, a mother working hard, doing other things, different professions, but now she's now gaining her PPL at such a late stage in life. But we, you know, they encourage everything. And so I'm saying to anyone out there who's got a license, be it a commercial license, private license, student license, whatever license you have, as long as you're a female and you have a license, you're most welcome to join the 99s.
Absolutely. Yes,
so,
true.
Yeah.
Lovely.
But
I look forward to attending the conferences.
yes, no, you have to attend, and we do hope to see you there. It'll be fantastic. I am working on the Rwanda one, like I have been saying in previous interviews. It's going to take time. We all sort of having a little bit of a setback, the world is at the moment, but it's giving me a lot of time to prepare in advance, so that's good.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Captain Faith. Thank you so much for your time, for your interview, and for sharing about you and your wonderful, inspiring family.
Thank you. Thank you
and
so
I
much.
have to say, I will be posting a photo of their family They have such a handsome, beautiful family. You will love to see their picture.
Thank you, thank you. The part you probably wouldn't get to see is the how do you say now? You know, sometimes they say, you know, you celebrate all the successes, but the people that are working behind the scenes, sometimes you don't get to see. I have to actually commend my mom as well. I mean, she's such an amazing support. I mean, a lot of times I didn't get to talk to my dad when I was in flying school, when things were a bit rough, and she was always the one, you know, encouraging me. I would be so scared and thinking, oh, is dad worried about me? Is he worried? You know?
Shame.
And she would be the one like, no, he's supporting you. He's with you all the way. You know, or when I needed more money and I had to ask for money, and I'm thinking, is
It's
that
always the
dad?
mothers that are by our side, always the mothers that encourage you
Yeah,
quietly from behind the scene.
exactly. And she did that for all of us. All of us.
That's
I mean,
fantastic.
it's amazing. It's amazing.
That's
So, but
brilliant. Now,
thanks
my
for
mother did the same. She used to always keep encouraging me, calling me every day. How did it go today? Was it all right? No, I failed. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Okay, don't worry, next time. And of course, when I lost my friend, it was the day that I passed my private pilot license. I couldn't even rejoice that because as soon as I came back, I finished doing all the paperwork and then got the message that she passed. You know, they crashed, and it was the most awful thing. And all I could do was ring my mum, and I couldn't speak. I was just crying. So I gave her the phone to the receptionist. And I mean, it must have been so worrying for a mother at that point in time because my child is learning to fly and one of her friends has crashed. Should she go on? But to be honest, my mum and dad were really supportive. They let me carry on and there was no problems. You know, they were fully supportive of me, and I kept saying I'm going to do this for Shelly as well because she, you know, she died too, and I said don't worry, we will get through this, we will do it. So I'm so grateful to my parents for letting me to continue at a time when they must have been thinking, is this really right? So
we celebrate this amazing period. We are the ones in front of
yes,
the camera, but they are the ones behind the scene
behind the
pushing us.
scenes. Absolutely. So thank you to all the wonderful parents out there and parents who are considering about not sending the children to fly. Please watch this video. It will encourage you to let them fly. Thank you, Captain Faith. Thank you.
Thank you, Vara. Thanks for having me.
Okay.